So Lucas Taylor on today's show will go over the visit to Syracuse. Then we'll talk about some reasons why he may want to commit to the Orange, and then how I'm going to, or how I would feel, not how I'm going to, how I would feel if he were to not commit, because I've basically already given my thoughts on what would happen if he does commit just a couple of weeks ago. I'll leave a link in the description below when I talked about Lucas Taylor. But anyways, regarding the visit. So Lucas Taylor is a Georgia State shooting guard. He is on campus visiting the Orange today. He's got 1 year of eligibility remaining. The rumor about him to Syracuse, it all started with Naheem McLeod posting on his Instagram story and then Taylor reposting it on his own Instagram story. And I told you guys back then, that is not nothing. That means there is most likely interest with the Syracuse program and Lucas Taylor. Lo and behold, just about maybe a day later or so, Mike McAllister confirmed that Syracuse was showing heavy interest in Lucas Taylor and that they were trying to schedule a visit with him for early next month. Now, the article was written in late May, so I suggested that early next month, just a couple days ago, I believe, I suggested early next month means early June, which means right around now. Today is June 4th at the time I'm recording this, so it makes sense. They talked about it, and obviously they have now brought Lucas Taylor to campus. Taylor is a top 200 transfer overall on 24/7 Sports, but he's ranked much lower on On3, so do with that as you will. Recruiting rankings vary all the time, transfer rankings, etc. As far as these schools that are known to have been in contact with Lucas Taylor, besides Syracuse, of course, they are TCU, West Virginia, George Mason, Arizona State, Oregon State, and St. John's. There are others as well, but those are the ones that were listed. And Lucas Taylor has been on 2 visits already during this transfer portal process. He visited TCU on May 8th. And he also visited George Mason the weekend of April 12th. I don't know exactly what day it was, but think of April 12th through the 14th, somewhere in that range, he visited George Mason. All I'm going to say with that is that there is no guarantee that just because Lucas Taylor is on campus, there's no guarantee that he is going to commit to Syracuse. Syracuse is 3 for 4 in terms of getting a transfer on campus for a visit and then getting him to ultimately commit. They got Eddie Lampkin to visit and then commit. They got Jair Davis and they got Jaquan Carlos, although we didn't even know that Jaquan Carlos was visiting. It wasn't public knowledge until he actually committed. And we saw the pictures that he had, in fact, visited. Now, the one guy that they missed out on was Dakota LeFew. LeFew had many visits. Syracuse, Villanova, obviously Georgia. There was, I think, another school that was involved. Xavier was in the mix too, I believe, but he might not have visited there. But Dakota LeFew was the first visit for Syracuse, or other way around. Dakota LeFew's first visit in the transfer portal process was to Syracuse, which is normally a positive sign, but they didn't get him. The Orange did not get him. He ended up going to Georgia, which is basically where he's from. So that makes sense. But overall, the reason why I think this is a good sign, other than the fact that he's visiting, is because it's June 4th. It's June 4th, and those visits that he had were a long time ago. The last visit he had was, that we know publicly at least, was TCU on May 8th. And before that, it was April 12th to George Mason that weekend. That's a good sign that Lucas Taylor is still available and he is still taking visits. You have to figure that if he was so committed to the other schools, he would have at least done it by now. Most players have found new homes or have stayed at their current schools or didn't pull out of the NBA draft. Lucas Taylor is still available after a couple of visits. If I had to bet on it, if I had to put money on it, I would say that Syracuse is going to land him. They've been showing interest for the last couple of weeks. It was strong interest that was reported. He's visiting campus basically a month after one school and a month after the other school. It's a positive sign that Syracuse basketball has Lucas Taylor on campus today, and hopefully they can get him. Hopefully they can get him. I did speak about earlier his fit and everything like that, so I won't get into it exactly right now. As far as the rest of this podcast coming up, I'm going to talk about the sales pitch. If I were Syracuse basketball, how would I sell Lucas Taylor coming to Syracuse? And then later on, I'm going to get to, is it really the end of the world if he doesn't commit? Because it is possible that he doesn't come, although I think he will. But if he doesn't, is it the end of the world? So tons to look forward to here on the rest of this podcast.